Mrs. Dudley here with Mr. Zuefle.
Hello.
We're sitting at the Civic Garden Center and it's a beautiful day. You might hear some traffic behind us. We're right on the corner of Reading and Taft over in Avondale. It's a beautiful garden, so we took a little walk earlier. You guys will be able to see that. But it's just a really nice space if you guys are looking for a little bit of peace and quiet. But let's get to the questions. All right, so you guys sent in some really good questions. Thank you for that. And some of the questions were really similar, so we'll kind of group those together. And if there's any questions that you have after you watch, then make sure you send those to me. I'll pop them over to Howie and he will respond. So don't feel bad if your question didn't get put in right away. We've still got time for that. First of all, thank you for coming to meet me.
You're welcome.
And it was a really good idea to, do this outside while practicing social distancing. And so it's just nice to spend some time, out of the house a little bit.
And it's nice to socialize when we aren't supposed to, or not too much.
Yeah, well, let's. I've heard this, and I want to keep on to this. Instead of social distancing, you can do distant socializing.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
So it doesn't mean you have to be totally isolated and alone. Make a phone call, do a video chat, take a spaced out walk with someone. It's really important that you keep your mental health strong right now. So those are just some of the things that I'm doing to try to keep up with that. So you have started your own business. You're your own boss. That was really exciting for some students. And so, let's kind of start off with this idea of what made you want to start your own business?
Well, I had figured out after college, what I wanted to do, which was to do something that was outside and good for me and my health, and also fun and community building as well. So I couldn't find a job that where someone else would be my boss, where I felt like I could get my needs met there. And I'm an only child. I've always kind of done my own thing, so I don't think I work well with the boss, generally. So then I had started doing little side gigs with local organizations around gardens and native plants. So, and then a girlfriend at the time kind of encouraged me to start my own business. And I was like, okay, that's probably a good idea. So I started there and gradually just use it as extra motivation to learn and communicate and connect with different groups and people, because just got to do it. Kind of put it upon yourself, because that did put more responsibility on me. And I wouldn't have taken that if I didn't just put myself in a position where it was required. So yeah.
What do you think, the hardest thing about it, that you had to just kind of push through in order to be successful?
I'm generally not real outspoken or communicate. I don't reach out usually. So it forced me to reach out to people and get business cards and talk with people I didn't know on the phone, that sort of thing. And that was outside of my usuals. And that was just good to learn, but it was uncomfortable for a while. I will say in the beginning, it was just awkward. It's I don't usually do this. So it required building a new skill, which it worked out great. It's just hard in the beginning. But once it gets going, and as I've established kind of my basic community and clients and that sort of thing, now I feel more relaxed and comfortable. But it was probably 2 years of kind of just working out things and getting comfortable. So it gets harder and then it just gets easier. So yeah.
So one of the students wants to know, how much is your salary as being self-employed? And you don't have to answer that if you want, but just kind of, not necessarily a number if you don't want to, but maybe how do you build that that comfortable living wage? How do you get there?
I will say I've made more money each year as I get more clients, and I'll also say, kind of through the way that I work, like, community is such a big part. I can't do this on my own. So I would say, I'm not going to say I'm economically, rich by any means, but I will say I've formed community around me, and we support each other. And now I'm much happier. Like, I could have $1 million, but if I don't have good friends that are supporting me and people that I can have, that I can learn with, I would much rather have that than have a lot of money, you could say. So we do need money to survive, and I definitely have enough money to survive, but I also have the skills and awareness to, one, find food in most places, and I now know I also have connected with all the farmers that have really good food, so I have a secure, some of the best food that I can get, that money can't buy. It's you really have to know these people to get the best food. So anyway, you asked about my salary, and I know you're thinking about money, and I don't make a ton of money, but I would say I'm rich in terms of I actually get my needs met really well, which money doesn't do. I can't eat money. I can't drink money. Money doesn't really keep me warm at night, so so yeah, I guess that's that answer.
I like it. Yeah. We grew up in this capitalist society, and it's all, based on that, what's your bottom line? And I think this situation that we're in right now has really forced a lot of people to think about, well, what else defines me? And if I'm not considered essential and I can't go to work, or, when money does run really tight, what do I actually need? And so I think that it's important for people to think about that. You've been thinking about that for several years before this. And so, yeah, just kind of taking that advice to consider beyond the dollar sign.
And thinking about it, with what's happening now, health is worth far more than wealth. And learning out what really creates health for you, which is community and which is your lifestyle, what you do. So anyway, health is worth. Also, people want to spend money to get healthy. So if you know how to be healthy, then you can make money that way also.
That's true. So before you started your business, you went to college, you interned at the Civic Garden Center, which is how we met.
Yeah.
And so we've got a question, why do you want to study neuroscience, and what were some challenges that you had surrounding your academic experience?
Okay. Well, neuroscience, and I did neuroscience and psychology because I was I want to understand how people and how we work, but I also didn't just want that external, how people behave. I wanted to understand the mechanisms that power that behavior, or make that process happen. So I did both. So I did the neuroscience and the psychology, and in terms of that, academics, they're kind of, they can be challenging. You have to study a lot in college and that sort of thing. But I would say the most challenging part about college and that whole situation is just, it was a really unhealthy environment, in terms of being inside a lot. And what's the usual social activity? Everybody goes out and drinks and that sort of thing. And that just doesn't feel good to my body, and didn't. So I had to kind of figure other ways out to socialize and things like that. And that was definitely the hardest part through college and through my academic experience. So yeah, it was back to health.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
and learning about yourself in that way. And I think that college is really good for that. Bouncing ideas off of new people that you might not have met, or experiencing a different culture. But yeah, you're right, that college culture tends to be, kind of what we see in movies, and that's not the experience that everybody needs to have. That's a really great place to explore new things, but also be true to yourself and be able to recognize, like, hey, this isn't working for me. Let me figure out a different way.
Yeah, and that was hard.
Yeah, I bet. All right, so one of the students wants to know, what is the hardest thing when it comes to recognizing trauma symptoms? So I know that right now in your career, you are, you're very interested in how nature can be a healing component. You always have been, but it's particularly with trauma, and you're studying now the somatic training that you were taking. So if you could just talk a little bit about that, and then talk about trauma symptoms, that would be great.
Okay. I'm doing a somatic experiencing training, and it's a very body-oriented trauma therapy. So it takes the perspective of trauma isn't in our head. It's not a memory. It's within our body, and our head is part of our body. But it's not a past event that is really traumatic. It's like when you recall that past event, what's happening in your body. Like, it's being in the present moment and feeling yourself, being able to feel yourself, which often we aren't practiced at. And to recognize, like, when you're activated, like if you just lose it, a friend or a family member, or you just get mad for some reason, or it could be very sad. There's many different reactions, but to be recognizing in your body what's happening, to help you not lose yourself, and to better regulate your nervous system. So it's very much looking at the nervous system, which we all have our own separate nervous systems, and seeing that we're kind of reacting, like we're interacting with all the nervous systems around us. And a word that was used in my training was, we ping off of each other, which is really kind of playful and fun. And I like that because it's really accurate. Like, I feel like Miss Dudley and I have been kind of pinging off of each other, like, as we have a conversation. So just seeing that aliveness, but also seeing that we have to be aware of our own nervous system to be able to interact with others and help others and like manage their own nervous system. So it's kind of those skills that's about. And in terms of symptoms of trauma therapy, there are many. Like dissociation is one that could be like PTSD, when you have flashbacks, not being able to be in the present moment, which can have it can come about in many ways, symptom-wise. Sometimes people just don't want to interact with anybody because they don't feel the drive. So the symptom is really being outside of your body and not being with yourself, and that would be due to a traumatic experience, which can manifest through going to the doctor, through like having a bike, like falling off your bike, or a huge car accident. Like it can be anything, or it can be a stressful test, actually. So to recognize what is stressful for us and learn how to, when we are activated, or we begin to go outside of ourselves, we're able to recognize it and bring ourselves back down and stay with ourselves. So yeah, there's too many symptoms, I feel like, almost to talk about. But dissociation, denial, like not being able to feel into parts of our own body is another great aspect of a symptom. So we should have a whole class on this another time. And
what I'm really hearing is it's kind of about observation. And so opening up your senses and giving yourself the space and time to observe what's happening personally, it can be very uncomfortable. So like I really struggle with solo time because I'm like, oh, I'm fidgety, I want to play with my phone, I want to call somebody, I want to distract myself from myself. Being alone with ourselves is kind of scary sometimes. You're not really sure, like, how deep do I want to go? But the little bit of practice that you can do, and it gets easier, right? Those are really important things to observe about yourself. And I am not there yet, but it's definitely a journey that I want to go on too.
It's like learning the language of our body, which, like, we don't think about that as a language, but it's the language of sensations that we're feeling. And that way, something I've been working on is when I speak, like, am I feeling my voice? Am I feeling the vibrations in my body? Like, this is really what I'm saying. So yeah, there's just so many different ways to practice that, and also, like, self-touch in terms of, like, feeling parts of our body, like, oh, I know my leg was injured. I'd like to hold my leg and just, like, help it feel like it's with me and part of me, because it's hard. Our bodies often don't process things through fully, and that's where we need help. Yeah.
Sweet. So the last couple of questions are specific about things that we eat maybe causing depression, anxiety, effects on our brain, how our nervous system plays a role, foods that are toxic, things like that. So these are pretty deep, so I'm going to let you respond on email to those. But I think that the takeaway here is, what can adolescents, adults, children, I mean, really, any of us, what should we take away? Like, if we were going to make some positive changes in our life today, what would your advice be?
Just look at the simple things, which is food and is water, and like our people, our friends also. But to ask yourself, like, where does this come from? What's it made of? Like, it's more about asking questions. It's the curiosity that will bring us to more awareness and allow us to change for a healthier lifestyle, which it's so simple, but it's such a long journey also. So just to stick with it and keep asking. And people don't like when you ask a lot of the time, because they don't want to deal with their own stuff. So just keep asking for yourself, and then others will also have to work through their stuff because you're working through yours. So yeah, just the food, the water, and what you're doing with your body. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate this. Yeah.
It was great to talk and catch up, and yeah.
Good luck with your distance socializing.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for sending in your questions and for joining us at the Civic Garden Center today. I cannot wait to see you again, and you guys have a good one.